신작 The First Tree라는 게임이고요. 영문판입니다. 이 게임의 대략적인 내용은 실종된 가족을 찾으려는 여우와 알래스카에 있는 연락이 없는 아버지와 다시 연결되는 아들의 두 가지 평행한 이야기를 중심으로 이루어졌습니다.
Are you awake? I thought I heard you get up.
Yeah, I'm awake. Sorry, I just can't sleep.
Are you thinking about him?
Yeah, a bit. You should get back to sleep, my love. I'm fine.
No, it's okay. What else is on your mind?
I don't know. It seems weird, but I had one of the most vivid dreams of my life. I saw a fox on a snowy mountain, just looking confused and worried. Those eyes. I can't get those eyes out of my head. She was running in the windy snow, looking for something.
Do you think it has to do with you and what's been going on?
I don't know. It was just a dream, Rachel. They're not meant to make sense. A lot's happened the past couple days, that's all.
Well, if you're not going to sleep anyway, you should tell me. I want to hear.
All right.
여기로 올라가네. 남자가 꿈을 꾼 내용인가봐요. 여자랑 얘기를 하는데 남자가 잠에서 깼는데 이 눈 덮인 산에서 이 여우의 이야기를 꿈을 꿨나봐요. 그래서 여자가 그 이야기를 듣고 싶어 해서 얘기해주는 그런 내용인 것 같습니다. 그냥 가는 건가? 잠깐 밖에 소리가 났네. 창문을 잠깐 열어놨었더니 아이 소리가 뭐야? 갑자기 시작하자마자
So, not far from her home, she followed that path to something unexpected.
뭐야? 새낀 거 같은데 죽었어. 그냥 계속 가야 되는 거야? 뭘 할 수 있는 게 아닌데.
She couldn't stay though. She had to find her other two children. So she took that path. She followed it towards something ancient. Something with answers.
때문에 찾아가야 돼. 뭐 머물 수가 없었다고 그런 내용이에요. 비가 오는 건가?
The fox looked high and low, searching for any sign of her cubs. Points of light showed the way to this ancient tree. It was as if each one had a story to tell, all their own. The land was trying to tell my story, too. I felt like I was right behind her the whole time.
이 BT 포인트가 새끼에게 가는 길을 알려주고 있다네요. 뭐야 저거?
As a kid, did you ever do show and tell in your class?
Yeah, I think I only did it once, when I was in the 4th grade. You know how my life was around then. I wanted to show my class what helped pass the time and distracted me, so I brought a dozen paper cranes I had made. I think I told everyone how badly I wanted to be a bird and fly, embarrassingly enough.
Don't be embarrassed. Every kid wants to fly. For me, it was another toy from my dad, a wooden boat. I remember guarding it so carefully in my hands as I walked into class. When I sat down, a group of boys immediately made fun of it. They asked which trash can I found it in, or why an ugly log was my favorite toy. When I got up, I didn't even want to tell them my dad had carved it. I said it was a joke gift my friend had given me.
이게 그 남자가 어렸을 때
Some of them are. I shouldn't have let them get to me,
묻어둔
but it
나무
did.
붙은 것 같아요.
It's amazing we bounced back at all.
이런 흔적들을 찾아가면서 뭐 토끼?
do you remember what my dad did for a living?
Wasn't he like a lumberjack?
That's one way of putting it. If wood was a canvas, then a carving knife was his paintbrush. Even after working a 50-hour week, even after his hands were more splinters than skin, he would bring home the nicest piece of Alaskan weeping cedar and make me toys. That wooden train was the first toy I can remember, and I loved it. I just knew from a young age
아버지가
I was going to be
만들어준
a
나무
lumberjack
기차인 것
like my
같은데.
father.
아버지가 직접 깎아서 만들어준 나무 기차. 뭐 그런 내용인 것 같아요. 빛이 안 보이네. 저쪽인가? 저 아래 뭐가 있는데. 아닌가? 저기서 점프를 한다고? 실내의 도약. 야. 저거 뭐야? 응? 뭐 눌러봐? 이거 꼭 다 모아야 되는 거는 아닌 것 같은데. 일단은 뭐. 이거 근데 빛이 안 보이네. 저쪽에 있나? 좋은데 아닌가? 안 닿는데? 저 위에 있네. 저기도 있나?
The older I got, the more I withdrew. I asked myself, why talk to anybody anyway? Why bother when I'm happy by myself? I started drawing a lot, mostly animals I saw in the woods by my home. I then imagined designing my own hideouts with things like TVs and pantries full of chips and cookies. I think that idea of leaving home and drawing blueprints started my career.
그냥 어렸을 때
solace
그린
in that.
같아요.
I'm not surprised,
TV, 뭐
but I did the same
동물들.
thing, you know? There's something special about having a place to call your own.
And now look at us. Well, if you count renting in an overpriced city.
It's as close as we can get for now.
스쿨버스. 미끄럼틀.
Usually those kids would leave me alone, but somehow they could tell I was different. They made fun of how far away I lived. They called my dad a sourdough. I was a blabbermouth as a kid, telling my dad stories I made up for hours. But after that show and tell, I didn't tell him much anymore. He didn't know exactly what was wrong, but his best guess was that the toys he carved weren't cool enough. He carved me a tank and tried to tell me what it was like to be in a real tank as a serviceman.
I didn't know your
진짜
dad was in
그거
the
있네.
military.
Yeah, in the army. The sad thing is that I
아,
pretty much
아버지가
forgot
군대에
until
있던
just now.
군대에
There's so much I still
있었구나.
don't know about him.
I'm sorry. He knows how much you love him. You're going to see him again soon and have some closure, I'm sure.
이제 어디로 가지? 이단 점프가 빨리 안 누르면 안 돼. 오자마자 바로. 이거는 모아서 나중에 뭐 쓸데가 있으려나? 설마 다 모아야 되는 건 아니지? 저길인가? 그렇게 넓은 거 같진 않은데 여기서 또 저쪽으로 넘어가는 데가 있나? 이쪽으로는 없는 것 같은데. 정상 쪽으로 가니까 어? 아예 맵이 바뀌어버렸네. 이거 왜 이렇게 놨던 거야? 꼭 다 모아야 될 건 아닌 것 같은데. 아, 이런 게임에 왜
My teenage years were full of sketching, angst, and trouble. I wasn't popular or unpopular. Maybe just forgettable.
사춘기 때 그린
I guess that gave me a sense of freedom. So I hung out with crazy
sketchy
kids, doing crazy things, even though I mostly just watched the chaos ensue. We did it all. Put fireworks in mailboxes, hide roadkill in people's garages, break windows of the barber shop in Anchorage. My dad was furious, but he was so busy working he couldn't do much to stop me from going out.
I think being an adult means there's no one to stop you making hard decisions. He had to make a living, and he couldn't be in two places at once.
Yeah, I realize that now. But at the time, I was sure he was more interested in growing his business than what was going on with me.
아니 뭐 뭘 먹은 거야? 보라색이 됐어. 구미호가 들어 글쎄요, 이거는 다 왔는데 분명히. 뭐야? 아, 잠깐 뭐 버프 같은 거구나. 경찰차.
He was working another late night, and my friends were over, saying how bored they were and how they had come all the way out to my house for nothing. One of them mentioned how that old, ugly beyond belief truck was still in the garage, and how we should take it for a spin. I was only 15, so I kind of fought it for a while. The next thing I knew, we were careening around the mountain path, rocks spitting onto the sides of the cliff, while my dad's cringeworthy bluegrass blared out the speakers. I drove while my friends were in the back of that yellow and purple truck, throwing beer bottles and trash at anything remotely interesting. Felt like I was soaring in the air with borrowed wings. But all good things have endings. A cop outside of Eagle River pulled us over after he saw us send a bottle rocket into someone's yard. What followed was a long night of talking to disappointed adults and feeling smaller than ever.
사춘기 때 친구들이랑 술을 마시고 차를 몰았는데 뭐라고 하는지 잘 모르겠네요. 아, 뽀뽀해주고.
After he drove me home from the police station, I blew up at him, saying how I never wanted to be like him, how I was going to be someone and leave that hick icebox for good. He just looked forward at the road with tired eyes. I took out that bluegrass tape from the cassette deck and chucked it out the window. In my sage teenage wisdom, I thought I had proved the ultimate point, but my dad had a different idea. He slammed the brakes, slowly bowed his head while gripping the steering wheel, and finally looked at me. All he said, like it was a polite request, was, "Make this right." I sat there in silence, fuming, but I eventually got out and combed every square inch of the woods, muttering profanity after profanity. I found it 30 minutes later, near a small waterfall off the road. I went back to the truck, put the wet tape back in, and sure enough it worked. We didn't speak another word to each other the rest of the night.
Wow, I knew you were a crazy teenager, but...
It's hard to believe, isn't it? It surprises me too. It's like I didn't really know who that kid was back then. I bet my dad thought the same thing over and over. It's almost like he was saying, "Make this right," to himself, more than to me.
이 10대일 방황했었던 얘기는 나비가 3개. 점프가 추가가 되네. 저 위로 올라가야 될 것 같은데. 바닥에서 여기까지 점프가 되나? 일단 여기서 바닥에서 해보자. 안 될 것 같은데. 이 정도까지 왔다 나와요. 세 개를 다 모아야 되나 보다. 일단 이쪽 거를 처음에 먹고, 이 점프를 쓰면 날 없어지니까. 너무 넘어갔네. 뭐가 있는데? 뭐가 있긴 한 것 같긴 한데 차인가? 그러네. 아버지 아까 아버지가 놀다 차인 것 같아. 가자. 이쪽으로 가는 것 같은데.
My friends would laugh about that night and talk about how crazy it was, and I laughed along, pretending it didn't bother me. But it did. I imagined my friends growing old in the bush, unable to find that thrill in those godforsaken ice fields. It's like those mountains were a literal wall, keeping me from leaving, where all I would have to look forward to were lumber yards and evening beers. I had to climb over.
Okay.
That was my only goal for a long time. If there was some way I could take my love of drawing and turn it into a way of escape, nothing would make me happier. I wanted to create instead of tearing trees down. I wanted to move to the lower 48, not because I hated it there in Alaska, but I hated the idea of it. It's like all of that spite inside me had created this monster which followed me around my whole teenage years.
뭐였어?
I put so much energy into doing what others didn't expect of me. Why did I do that?
There's one fact you're forgetting, though. If you didn't have that fire in you, we probably would have never met.
You're absolutely right. Maybe the destination is all that matters in the end. But then why am I awake? Why am I seeing this fox go on her journey? And why can't I stop thinking about my dad?
세 번째 맵인가?